Spanning around 3,500 kilometres up, down and across, Australia embraces almost every agricultural and ocean climate in the world. And while its centre can be arid and sparsely vegetated, much of its coast and hinterland is fertile and highly productive. Although Australia is a single country, it's divided into a number of states and regions. And sometimes Australian foods and wines reflect their state or regional source. Of course, plants and animals aren't confined by lines on maps, and many of the same foods are produced across regional and state boundaries. Beef is a perfect example because cattle producing top-quality export beef are raised right around Australia. On the other hand, buyers requiring particular types of beef will often find it grown in specific regions, and those who look for certain colours, textures and tastes may be supplied from a very small area indeed. King Island, for example, is a small dot in the strait separating mainland Australia from the island state of Tasmania. But its particular climate and pasture produces a vivid purple beef of exceptional tenderness. And when its waters are clear and calm, the island's fishermen haul in sweet, succulent lobsters and large deep-water crabs. King Island also makes a fine range of hard and soft cheeses, as does lush and green Tasmania itself. An island the size of Switzerland with distinctly European countryside. With its cool, temperate climate and regular rainfall, Tasmanian stone fruits, cherries and berries are amongst Australia's finest. But perhaps the island's most famous fruit is the apple. Tasmania's ocean trout and salmon fisheries have also diversified, producing a wide range of smoked styles and a premium fresh salmon caviar for restaurants. As well as its extensive wild and farm fisheries, Tasmania's cold southern waters grow superb abalone of considerable size. They're eaten in Australia, but particularly prized in Asian markets where the quality of seafood is all important. And with generous supplies of pure fresh water combined with premium barley and hops, Tasmania's fine beers are a growing export. But Tasmania's best-known bottles contain its excellent cool climate wines, which nicely complement its creamy, succulent oysters. Oysters are a specialty too at Coffin Bay on South Australia's Eyre Peninsula. These clear, clean Southern Ocean waters are also home to the darting bluefin tuna, which pursue prey and avoid predators at speeds of up to 70 kilometres an hour. With limited ocean stocks, aquaculture is now their major source, as it is for the yellow-tailed kingfish or hiramasa. The smaller, year-old hiramasa are served whole. But 6 months later, and 2 kilograms heavier, they're ideal for sashimi, for which they are highly prized. Like Tasmania, South Australia also has its fine dairy region. It's known as Kangaroo Island. and it's as renowned for its prime lamb and sheep's milk products as it is for its cows. But South Australia's most famous food and wine district is undoubtedly the Barossa Valley and the nearby Langhorne Creek, Coonawarra, Clare, McLaren Vale and Eden Valley regions. With mild winters and warm to hot summers, the Barossa has a Mediterranean climate, similar to Portugal. But with higher and cooler microclimates, it produces a comprehensive array of premium and super premium wines, ranging from delicate Rieslings to intensely flavoured Shiraz and Cabernet. Mushrooms, quinces, pears, peaches, table grapes, figs and olives grow alongside wild hare and pheasant. Local manufacturers make the most of these regional delicacies, blending them with other natural ingredients to produce an amazing variety of pastes, pâtés, jams, condiments and sauces. And olives like these at McLaren Vale produce some of Australia's finest oils, particularly the early picked, cold-pressed, extra virgin varieties with their superb aroma and taste. Further west, in fact as far west as Australia reaches, Margaret River, like the Barossa, is one of Australia's earliest wine valleys. The foods that grow alongside the wines share much in common with the produce of Australia's other great wine-growing districts. Olives and olive oils, yogurts and cheeses, high-quality domestic and game meats, fruits, berries and nuts. While Western Australia is vast and widely grazed, the home of what many leading chefs regard as the nation's finest veal is just a few kilometres from its coast and next door to Margaret River. It's here at White Rocks that true baby veal is produced. White pink and fed on milk and herb-infused grains. It's eagerly snapped up by leading restaurants right around the continent and exported to Singapore, Mauritius, Japan and the Philippines. Just off the coast, Australia's largest lobster fishery stretches more than 600 kilometres to the north. Yielding around 12 million kilograms a year, it's a substantial but sustainable harvest. And the waters of the Indian Ocean produce lobsters of superb taste and texture. In this business, customer needs determine the product. And while 50% of the catch is exported live, the rest is portioned to fit the particular requirements of particular buyers. As well as its ocean lobsters, the freshwater creeks and rivers of southwest Australia have a true specialty in the small and sweet-fleshed marron. An Indigenous delight that's now farmed to keep pace with restaurant demand. There's a similar story in the warm inland waterways of the Northern Territory and Queensland. Here, the Indigenous crayfish is red claw, a fine-textured, low-cholesterol shellfish that's farmed and exported live to Asia, Europe and North America. While the largest red claw farms are centred round the low tropics of central Queensland, wild export shellfish like mud crabs are found right across the top end and along the Queensland coast. Tiger and banana prawns too are plentiful in Northern Territory and Queensland waters, with specialised varieties such as kuruma farmed in the more temperate waters of the south. These southern waters are also home to common finfish such as whiting and bream. But the more exotic and highly prized export species like barramundi, red emperor, gold band snapper and coral trout are caught off the Northern Territory coast and the tropical waters of far north Queensland. As well as exotic seafood, the far north also boasts exotic fruits, with rambutans now an established export and mangosteens, durians, rollinia, and soursop waiting in the wings. Well-known tropical favourites like mangoes are grown throughout Queensland and in the Northern Territory, which exports its fruit to Europe, the Middle East and Asia. There's even a special export mango known as R2E2 with an extended shelf life that keeps it fresh and fragrant during travel and storage. With more than 2,000 kilometres of coast, Queensland embraces an enormous range of climate, from the wet season downpours and year-round heat of its tropical far north, to the even rainfall and crisp winter mornings of the Darling Downs and Lockyer Valley. Known as Southeast Queensland's food basket, the Lockyer Valley produces a wide range of fine fruit and vegetables, many of which are exported in substantial quantities. Premium quality game meats are also a Southeast Queensland specialty, with wild goats like these, carefully selected, health tested and crossbred, then finished on grain to soften their taste and texture, before dispatched to North America, Taiwan and the Caribbean. Of course, Australia also has its own Indigenous game meats, and just behind Surfers Paradise, this fully certified game meat exporter prepares and packs kangaroo, crocodile and emu, along with introduced species such as wild boar and venison. As well as native meats, Australia's native fruits, nuts and herbs find their way overseas in the form of cakes, biscuits and even confectionery. For example, this small Brisbane chocolatier won the Brussels Prix du Monde for its Bush Tucker range, with native fillings such as lemon myrtle, roasted wattle seed and kakadu plum jelly. And what better accompaniment to native fruit and spice chocolates than rich, mellow Australian coffee, grown and roasted just south of Brisbane at Australia's most easterly point, Byron Bay. Although it's a new product, Australian coffee has already stirred the interest of coffee connoisseurs in Europe and Asia, and exports are growing strongly. But for chefs and restaurateurs, securing consistent quality and specified characteristics in staples like beef is often the primary concern. With 11.5 million cattle, Queensland is by far Australia's largest export beef producer. And though its hot northern runs are its largest, properties in the warm, temperate south carry greater numbers. The Darling Downs, for example, is renowned for its lush, undulating pastures and the substantial herds of fine quality beef cattle they support. But in many markets, it's the marbled meat of lot-fed beef that's particularly prized. And with its substantial output of grain, the Darling Downs also grows excellent pork and quality feedlot beef. Directly to the south, New South Wales is also a major pasture and grain beef producer, with sophisticated feedlots like this providing meat styles for a wide range of tastes. As Australia's first European settlers soon found, New South Wales has a generally temperate climate, particularly on its coast, where the moderating influence of the Pacific produces mild winters and warm rather than hot summers. Along the shores of their famous harbour, the settlers soon discovered the delights of the Sydney rock oyster, while the adjacent Hunter River Valley became home to a thriving dairy industry and Australia's earliest vineyards and wineries. Today, the valley's cool winters and humid summers favour Shiraz, Semillon and Chardonnay, showing well-developed fruit in a somewhat lighter style than Australia's cooler southern and west coast plantings. And as is often the case, the skies and soils that favour the grape also produce excellent and varied fruits, vegetables and cheeses, along with farmhouse specialties such as terrines, jams and honey, cakes, biscuits and condiments. It's no surprise then that 1,000 kilometres to the south, the fine wines of Victoria's Yarra Valley are grown in one of the most fertile specialty food regions in Australia. With its undulating topography, the valley harbours a wide variety of microclimates that allow it to grow excellent Shiraz and Cabernet Sauvignon, while producing Pinots, Chardonnays and Rieslings that rival the quality of the high Barossa Hills and Tasmania's cool southern vineyards. Highly regarded for its freshwater trout and salmon, the valley also boasts some of Australia's finest farm-bred venison. Hazelnuts and chestnuts are Yarra Valley specialties too, as are premium quality fruits, berries and vegetables. With a cool, temperate climate, generally free from extremes of heat and cold, Victoria has premium wine and food districts like the Yarra Valley scattered throughout its length and breadth. But perhaps its largest and most productive agricultural region is Gippsland, a mixture of dense forest and lush, undulating pasture covering 41,000 square kilometres of mainland Australia's southeastern tip. During the 1980s, this fine dairy country witnessed the birth of a new era in Australian cheesemaking. From a limited range of cheddars and semi-soft cheeses, newcomers such as Gippsland Blue triggered an explosion in the development of traditional European farmhouse cheeses and new homegrown styles as well. Today, Gippsland cheeses have captured some of the world's most prestigious awards and opened new markets in countries with no previous taste for dairy products. Of course, pasture like this is equally suited to growing beef, and some of Australia's finest cattle graze these succulent Gippsland grasses. Here in Victoria, we've come full circle in this brief look at some of the finest produce of Australia's lands, rivers and seas. Of course, Australia produces many other natural and processed foods, and for those who want to discover them, talking to Austrade can provide a wealth of useful information. But to go one better, why not come here and see for yourself?